into Year 12 Economics. I hope you're all good. Pleased to see that pretty much your work has come in from session 1, so well done on that. Just make sure that you are really trying your very hardest with the work right from the outset, so have clear titles written down. Should really be on Google Docs or Word or A4 line paper. You should be trying to find a ring binder because stuff needs to get filed away. This is proper stuff now for the economics course. So please, don't just find an old bit of paper and just scribble down some answers. That's not good enough. I've sort of overlooked it a little bit on the first homework for a couple of you, but you've got to be getting the work presented nicely because you are going to have to revise from this. It's not a case of exercise books anymore. You are now being seen as post-16 students. So that said, good work on the whole submitted, and on Show My Homework, check in session 2, you'll see exactly what you've got to do this week. I'll talk about that in just a second. One of the tasks is to mark your work to the article to do with the price of fish. I'm going to talk a bit about that in a second. Whenever I set you work, I think hard about what I'm setting you and why I'm setting it for you. So it's really important that you really try to think, what am I learning from this piece of work? If you're not learning anything, tell me, and we can sort that out. But usually, in my mind, there's quite a clear reason why we're doing things. So I'm going to be talking about to do with the price of fish today. Check-in 2 is going to be more about the economic problem. So you'll see the work that I've set for you, but the first thing is to just write down a description of the economic problem, just so we're absolutely clear that resources are scarce, but wants and needs are infinite. So there's a bit of a mismatch there. There's a bit of a problem that occurs because you can't satisfy everyone all the time. So how do you allocate those scarce resources in the most efficient way, the way that brings about maximum benefit to the firms that produce goods and the consumers that consume them? So that's really the gist of check-in 2. There's more stuff on that, and there's also quite a lot of opportunity costs. Now, this is a concept you might have come across before, but opportunity cost is a really key concept that helps us to understand the subject of economics, and it's all about choice. So when there's scarcity, there are scarce resources. How do we make the best choices in order to bring about maximum benefit to producers and consumers? Well, one way that we can look at choice is through the concept of opportunity cost. So opportunity cost is the next best alternative foregone when a choice is made. So for example, if I've got £10 and I decide to go and watch my football team go and play football on a Saturday with my £10, costs a bit more actually than that, but if I went with my £10 and went and watched my football team, possibly to me the next best alternative is that £10 could have been used to go to the cinema. So the opportunity cost of going to the football match, the next best alternative in my mind is to go to the cinema. So when choices are made in economics, in terms of what should we do with land, labour, capital, entrepreneurship, in order to maximise benefits to producers and consumers, whatever choices are made, you can evaluate those choices, those economic choices, by trying to judge the scale of the opportunity cost, what has been foregone as a result of the choice made. So there's a bit today on opportunity cost in check-in 2. There's also a bit about understanding the economic resources that are categorised by the factors of production: land, labour, capital and entrepreneurship. So there's a bit of a quiz on that. And then there's a bit about the difference between free goods. Free goods don't have an opportunity cost to them. So for example, air, there is no, if you consume air, you aren't having to forego anything. It's a free good, no opportunity cost there. So some resources there is no opportunity cost, and when that's the case, we're either talking about free goods, which is an economic term, or renewable resources. So things like fish stocks that can get replenished. So that's the gist of section check-in 2. I just want to talk to you quickly about the article that was key really to check-in 1, which was this article to do with the price of fish. So Here it is, you can see it on your screens. When you go through your work, one of the tasks that I'm setting you for check-in 2 is to mark your answers. I've highlighted the answers on the article, so just green pen those and make sure that you take a picture and upload them to Show My Homework, to show me that you've attempted those. But I want to come to the bottom of this document. So the article goes on and on and on, and then you had some questions, but I want to draw our attention to the little summary, because this article really helps us to understand how the allocation of resources through technological advances can become more efficient. So here we are. You had to fill in the gaps. So it says at the bottom, really, summing up the whole article, markets work better when there is perfect information. So the fishermen in the article, they caught lots of fish and they wanted to know which market they should take their fish to. Now, before mobile phones, they just had to guess, and it would end up with waste and inefficiency. So they would go to a market and find out, oh, we've got too many fish for this market, and end up throwing away fish. It was inefficient, and therefore there was little gain to producers because they weren't maximising their profits, and there was little gains to the consumers because whilst at one market there was enough fish and surplus fish, extra fish that weren't actually needed. In another market, there would be probably a shortage of fish because the fishermen had hadn't allocated those fish to the right markets. So this article is really about how mobile phones meant that the fishermen could know when out to sea where they should take their fish, and by doing that, they could maximise their profits, and consumers could get maximum benefit from the availability of fish, and also paying the right price at both markets for those fish to achieve efficiency. So that is a really important little conclusion there to the article, and it's important that you understand that, and there are some key terms there like perfect information, and also the last sentence says if it wasn't the forces of supply and demand that were influencing where the fishermen were taking their fish to be sold, if the government said to the fishermen, right, you've got to take 500 fish to that market, 1,000 fish to that market, and actually at the other market we don't want any fish today, that could be one way of allocating resources, but it's not, there's no mechanism that the government are using to be able to allocate the optimal amount of fish and at the most efficient price. So some important concepts in there. Perfect information, that's a really important economic concept. Maybe have a look at that through Google. You might want to have a look at the term misallocation of resources as well, because that's really important. So I'm going to stop talking pretty much there. Keep your work nicely presented. Do keep up with your work. I'd say today's work should be alright. There's a little quiz in there. Take you maybe an hour, maybe an hour and a half, but hopefully you're starting to take some interest in the subject. Right, for the first part of the course, certainly when we start proper in September, up until kind of October, November, we're just going to be learning about the economic problem and starting to look at the supply and demand, and then we'll look at why supply and demand doesn't work as a way of allocating scarce resources, and why the government intervene and with various policies and stuff. And then we get up after Christmas in year 12, you'll start on macroeconomics, and that's the part of economics that most students find particularly interesting when you start to actually learn about things like inflation and unemployment, economic growth, GDP. You're hearing the Chancellor talking a lot at the moment about things like, we're heading for a big recession. What does that mean? What's it going to do to, coronavirus? How might that influence our exchange rate, the rate at which we can exchange our pounds for other currencies? We're going to learn about interest rates, how the Bank of England set interest rates, and what are the factors that they consider before setting interest rates. In that part of economics, we'll learn about fiscal policy, so that's how governments decide on their tax plans, how much they tax consumers and firms, and how much the government decide to spend or don't spend on the aspects of the economy that they own, and on things like benefits as well. So certainly there's loads and loads to economics. The macro stuff is possibly the stuff that really gets students interested, because when you watch the news you can start to really make sense of things. But the micro is really fundamental, and we will learn lots about different markets and how different markets are being affected during the pandemic and stuff like that. So I'm going to stop talking. Hope to see you soon. Keep going. Been really impressed with some of your work in particular so far, so just keep that going, and good luck with check-in too. See you soon.